Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 16 of Remaking Cavestory in C++. This episode is called Doors. I'm Limeoats. My website is limeoats.com. My Twitter is @limeoats. My GitHub link is here, and my subreddit is here. So as the title suggests, we are going to implement doors today. So basically, a door, if I run my program, this is a door. Obviously, there's no way to get through it yet because we didn't implement it yet. But this is going to take us to the second map. When we hit the down arrow, we should go through this door and end up in the second map. So, detail. Map2.tmx. I created this already. Not on video because it took us a long time and I already taught you how to make a map. So really you can make this yourself if you just stared at the Cavestory actual game long enough. But I went ahead and made it for you. So if you open it up, you can download it from GitHub or make it yourself. This is it. It's only a piece of the second map. We're only going to work with a piece for now because we don't have a camera or anything. But there's enough stuff going on here that we can deal with this for a while. So this is the part of the second map. There's a little animated heart chest right there. Lots of slopes and rectangle collisions and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's map 2. You don't really have to worry about it at all. Just throw it in your project and it will just work. So let me close out of that. Okay, so next up is the solution. What do we have to do to solve this problem? Well, we have to first add a door object to map 1. We have the door drawn on the screen already, but we have to add an object in the object layer in tiled that will actually collide with. Then we're going to create a door class, and then we're going to parse the door info out of the TMX file, and then finally we're going to handle the collision of the player with the door, and that will send us through it. So this might be a longish episode, so let's get started right away. So first up, we have to add the door object to map 1. So open up tiled, and that's map 2. Open up map 1. Should be this one. Nope. Should be this one. Yes. Alright, so map 1, here we are. Actually, let me make sure I have the right one. I have a bunch of versions of this. Let me just open it from this actual project here. No, open with tiled, please. Hello? There we go. Alright, so this is our map 1. So what we need to do is go over to Objects and make a new layer. Call it Doors. Then select the rectangle thing, and inside the door, make a rectangle like this. I'm not making the full width of the door or height because I don't want the player, if the player is colliding with it just a little bit on the right, he will go through it. So we want to make sure he's kind of in the middle-ish. So that's pretty good. So draw that in and save that. Make sure you have door selected when you do it so that it gets created here. Then select the door you just made. Then go down to Properties, and we're going to add a custom property. Our custom property is going to be called Destination. Hit OK. And then as the value, type in map space 2, just like that. Alright. Once that's in there, save the map, and that's all you need to do for this. So now close out of that, and we just created our door and tiled. So now we have to create a door class. So go ahead and open up a new header file called door.h. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say class door, and it's going to extend off of our rectangle class. So since it's just a rectangle in tiled, just using the rectangle class is fine. Extending off of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say public and private, and for private we're going to have just an std string destination. So we need to include a few things. We need to include rectangle.h, we need to include globals.h, and we need to include string. So now for our public, we're going to say door. We're going to have a door constructor that takes in a rectangle and a string destination. And what that's going to do is it's going to call our rectangle constructor for our base class rectangle. We're going to pass it our x, which is r.getLeft times global sprite scale. Our y, which is r.getTop times global sprite scale. Our width, which is r.getWidth times global sprite scale. And our height, which is r.getHeight times global sprite scale. Okay, so that's our rectangle constructor. And then what we also need to do is initialize our destination to destination. Okay, so that looks good. And then we're going to have two functions to get these things. So const inline rectangle get rectangle const return this get rect. We're going to implement that in just 1 second. So you're going to get a compiler error right there. Don't worry about it. We're going to implement that. And then const inline string get destination. Okay. So get rect. We're going to implement that inside our rectangle class. So go to rectangle.h. Open declaration. And down here underneath is valid rectangle, I'm going to say const inline rectangle get rect const return a dereferenced this. Now what does this mean? The this keyword that we've been using all the time is simply a pointer to this instance of the class that we're talking about. But it's a pointer. So in order to make it a regular rectangle, not a pointer, we need to dereference it, which we do with this asterisk before it. So all we're doing is returning this specific instance of our rectangle, our whole rectangle. But in order to do that, we have to dereference the word this to get it. Okay, so that's that. So the reason we're using that is we want to get this whole rectangle, and since our base class is rectangle, we can just do that to get our actual rectangle. And that's our door class. So that's good. Next up, we have to parse the door info out of the tmx file. So go to first go to level.h. And in here, we're going to include door.h because we're going to make a new list here, an std vector of doors called door list. Okay. So now go to level.cpp and go down to Go down to underneath our spawn points, I think. Where is it? Where do we have spawn points? There we go, spawn points. So all this is another object group. I'll show it to you in the TMX file actually first. So in the TMX file, if you go down to the bottom, well, this is the wrong one. This is for map 2. Let me open up map 1. This will do. If you look at the TMX file at the bottom, you see another object group called doors. Nothing new there. An X, Y, width, and height, which we need. And then we have this properties element. And inside the properties element, there's a property element that has the custom property that we created in tiled, which is destination and taking in map 2. So we just have to parse all that out. Nothing really new there at all. The same kind of parsing out we've done for everything else. So I'm going to say else if ss.str equals doors, new XML element, p object equals p object group, first child element of type object. Then if p object is not null, while p object, and of course, well, then we'll have p object equals p object, next sibling element of type object. Okay. Then in here, we're going to say float x equals p object float attribute x, float y equals p object float attribute y, float w equals p object float attribute width, and float h equals p object float attribute height. That's just taking these attributes from the object. Okay. So then we're going to create a rectangle out of that. So rectangle rect equals rectangle xy with, I'm sorry, wh. So then we have to get into the properties. So let's move on to properties. P properties equals p object first child element type properties. If p properties is not equal null, while p properties equals p properties next sibling element properties. Okay. There's nothing really interesting in properties. We need to get to the child element of that property. So let's jump right to that. XML element p property equals p properties first child element type property. If p property is not null, while p property equals p property next sibling element property. All right. That's the same exact parsing code we're using for everything else. Nothing new there at all. So now we need to get this this destination out. So I'm going to say const char star name equals p property attribute name string stream ss name if ss.str equals destination, then that means we're in the right property, the destination property. There might be more door properties later on. I don't know. So we want destination. So if that's true, then I'm going to say const char star value equals p property attribute value, because that's what it's called in the right here. So for the property destination, we want the value, which will be map 2. Then I'll create another string stream, ss2, put value in there, and then I'm gonna create a new door object. So door equals door. Takes in a rectangle and the destination. So rect and ss2.str. And then finally, all I have to do is add that to door list. Push back door. And now we have our door in our door list. And whatever other doors might be on the map. Okay, and that's it. That is our door parsing code. So that's great. What's next? Then we just have to handle the collision of the player with the door. So for that, I'm going to start in level.h. So go to level.h, and we need a new function in here. Put it under get slope collisions. It'll be std vector door check door collisions. Takes in a const rectangle other. So now go to level.cpp and we'll implement that. Right here. Same code as all the other ones, except we replace everything else with door. Nothing new here at all. This is almost copy and paste from above. I probably should be copy and pasting this, but I'll type it so you can keep up. Make sure you use door list, which is now full at this point. If door list.add I collides with, that's why we make the doors of type rectangle. Well, a derived class of type rectangle, so that we can use this collides with function. Very useful. We don't have to rewrite it. Alright, and of course return others, and that's it. That's our check door collision. That just checks to see if the player's rectangle is colliding with the door's rectangle. Okay, so now we're going to make the player's collision with the door function. So go to player.h, and underneath handle slope collisions, now we're going to say void handle door collision. Notice how it's just collision, not collisions. We can only collide with one at a time, one door. We can only go through one door at a time, I should say. So we're only going to handle colliding with one at a time. I'm passing in all of the doors I'm colliding with, but we're going to only use one, the first one. It's very unlikely that we'll ever have more than one door that close to each other. In fact, we probably won't, but to be consistent with everything else, we're just going to use a vector of doors and just use the first one. This is also going to take in a reference to the level and also a graphics object. That's important. We need all this stuff. Let's implement that now. So go to player.cpp and let's implement handle door collision right here. Void player handle door collision takes in a vector of type door others, a level, and a graphics object. So now I'm going to write what we're going to be doing here. Check if the player is grounded and holding the down arrow. That's how we know that we're going through the door. If we're grounded and we have the down arrow. If so, go through the door. Now we already know at this point that we already know that we collided with it, so we don't have to worry about any collision stuff. All we have to do is handle what happens when we're actually holding down the down arrow and standing on the ground in front of it. So if so, go through the door. If not, do nothing. So loop through the vector of doors, which will only ever really have one, so don't worry about that, but we're just going to loop through it for consistency. If grounded equals true and looking down equals true, then that's how we know that we're supposed to go through it. So I'm going to say level. Since it's a reference to it, this is passed by reference, we can just set it equal to something and it'll actually change the actual level. So we're going to call the level constructor again, start it over. Others at I dot get destination and graphics. The constructor for level, if you remember from many episodes ago, takes in a string level name and a graphics object. For some reason, it looks like it takes a spawn point. That can't be right. Level.h. Let me check that out. Spawn point. That's weird. We're gonna get rid of this spawn point. We don't need that. We handle that elsewhere. So let me remove that. Does everything build? No. Alright. No matching constructor for level. Alright, we don't need this anymore. That's in game.cpp. Now it should build. No. No matching constructor for level. Why? I changed it. Level.h. String map name, graphics. Lovely. String map name, graphics. What's the problem? Problem is that I didn't put a comma here. That's fairly important. Now it should build. No. Still no matching constructor. How's that possible? A string and a graphics object. That looks fine. Looks fine here. Looks fine here. Oh, so this time it builds. Okay. No. Alright, well that's a different error. That's about door. Don't worry about that. We're implementing this now. So now go back to, sorry about that that detour I just took. Had to change that. So use the constructor so that we reset all the lists and everything else. Start fresh with a new level. Then set our player's x to level.getPlayerSpawnPoint.x, and now level's the new level. So the spawn points, whatever we set, which I took care of when I made the level. And of course, same thing for y. Alright. And that's it. That's our handle door collisions. So now, did I mess up? I didn't save. Alright. So I'm getting let me fix some build errors right now because we shouldn't really have any. Unknown type name level. So I have to include level.h and player.h now. And unknown type name door as well. Oh wait, it built. That's weird. Alright, cool. So now what we can do is use all of this in our game class. So go to game.h, and the first thing we're going to do is in our private variables, we're going to actually make a graphics object. We're going to store the graphics object now. Now, the way I'm doing this is a little weird. We could just store a pointer to it. However, what I'm going to do is every time we go around the game loop, before update, we're just going to set graphics equal to graphics. So the updated graphics, whatever that is at the time, we'll just update our graphics object as well. And then what we can do, because we need to pass that in down here, so we need to store it as a class variable. So now you can go to game.cpp, and down here what we'll do is we're going to check doors for collision. So I'll say std vector of door other doors, and if other doors equals level dot check door collisions, taking in player dot get bounding box size is greater than 0, then player dot handle door collision other doors level and graphics that we just made. Alright, build that. We have an error. Field is incomplete type graphics. Yes. We need to include graphics.h now since we're using it here. No longer forward declare it. And then we're also probably going to get a door one for the game class as well. No. Alright, we're good. So that should be it, I think. Run it. Everything is still normal here. Now though, if we go up to our door and hit down, we end up in our second map. This map's a little buggy. If you watch, when I land on this block, I'm going to fall through it. I don't know why, and I didn't really take any time to debug it. If anyone wants to figure that out for me, that would be great. Some of the slopes might be a little buggy. I put rectangles underneath them to handle collision if we fall on it too fast. We end up going through it a little bit. So if anyone wants to figure that one out too, that would be even better. But the rest of it all works. We have this animated little thing going. I put collision at the bottom of the map too, kind of, so that we can't just fall off it. And yeah, that is how we get to our second map from our first one. So I'll do it again just so we could all watch it again. For those that might just be watching the videos and not following along. If we jump in the air and hit down, oh, well, I landed and still holding down. If we're in the air and we hit down like that, we're still colliding technically, but we're not going to go through it because we're not grounded. And also, if we're obviously not holding down the down arrow, we can hold down up, left, right, anything else. We're not going to go through until we hit down, then we go through. So that's our door. And the whole way the thing I like about this setup is that we set the destination actually in tiled instead of in the code. So just to change which map that door goes to, all we have to do is change the destination and that custom property we made in tiled, which is much better than needing to recompile the whole project by changing it in the code. Alright, so that's our door episode. So let's talk about next time really quickly. Next time is going to be a very fun episode. I've been looking forward to this episode and probably going to be one of my favorites that we do. Next time we are going to make our first enemy. It's going to be a bat. We're going to draw it to the screen, we're going to make it move, and we're going to make it hurt us. So that's going to be a very involved episode, but we're going to finally have an enemy moving around on our screen. So that'll be very exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. So make sure you check that out when it's released. So yeah, that's it. So again, this episode was about doors. I'm Limeoats. My website is limeoats.com. My Twitter is @Limeoats. Be sure to follow me there so you can ask me quick questions and see my updates and everything that I post. GitHub is right here. This is important, especially this time, because you need to get map2.tmx unless you want to make it yourself, which isn't going to be much fun. So I recommend you just download the one I made. So yeah, definitely go there. And then my subreddit, where you can ask questions, start discussions with other people. A lot of people have already posted there asking for help and some answers that maybe I can't answer myself. So be sure to check that out and subscribe to that if you're a Redditor. And of course, Also, check out my website. I think I mentioned that already, but it's brand new. I just remade it, and it looks pretty nice, so take a look at that. And of course, please subscribe to these YouTube videos, my channel, so you find out when I make new episodes. Okay, so yeah, definitely keep an eye out for the next episode. Making an enemy will be fun. And then in the future episodes, we get to kill it. So that'll be fun too. So check back for that. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next